Hello everyone, welcome back to another episode of Minecraft Legacy Survival. Today we're here on version beta 1.8.1, the adventure update. And there's quite a few changes to talk about in this update, some of which you're already seeing on the screen. So I think we should address the elephant in the room here. This is the version that the hunger bar was added in. So no longer do you instantly eat food to regenerate health, you have to fill up the hunger bar, and when the hunger bar is at 9 hunger points or more, you regenerate health slowly. And with that, food is now stackable and takes some time to eat. And as well, sprinting was introduced and degrades your hunger faster than just walking around. You might have also noticed that the chests were changed. They are no longer full blocks. This is the version in which they started to be tile entities, and in which they open and close and make a sound when opened. So, now that I've shown that, let's get some resources out because we've got a little bit of crafting to do. I need some glass. I need wood, which I have, and I need my pumpkins. So first things first, bricks can now officially finally be used to make slabs, and along with slabs, they can be used to make stairs. So that's more decorating possibilities. Stone bricks were introduced in this version, and similarly to bricks, they can be used to make stairs and slabs. We won't make those yet, but I might be using some later. Glass panes were introduced in this version, as were iron bars. And there's now a new way to get in and out of your fences. And I reversed the recipe. So I need more sticks. Fence gates were introduced. And they work exactly as they do now. So that's pretty nice. And finally, one last thing to show is that something I can't show yet, so I was wrong on that. It's interesting because the item was introduced, pumpkin seeds it is, but pumpkins can't be crafted into them as of yet. That'll be coming soon. So let's put away some of these new blocks. And some of the old ones as well. Start the inventory, and it's nighttime, so I guess now is as good a time as any to discuss some new changes to combat. So first up, bows no longer shoot in a machine gun fashion. They now fire as they do today, where you hold and charge. You might have seen there that critical hits were added, so when you jump and strike as you fall now, you land the critical hit for extra damage. And you might have also seen that monsters now drop experience, as do friendly mobs. There's no use for the experience yet, but it exists. So now creepers are a lot easier to take care of. Ha! There's our next target, a zombie. Zombies no longer drop feathers, they drop rotten flesh. And when you right-click with a sword, you can now block to reduce damage. Which doesn't really matter too much in survival, but it definitely changed PvP a lot. So let's go kill some mobs. And as you can see, skeletons now hold their bows properly, instead of just holding them in one hand. And there's another mob that we need to look for here, so hopefully they show up soon enough. You also might have noticed that the grass color has changed outside the house. Biome code was rewritten in this update, so There's a lot of new biomes, and existing biomes were changed to fit the new format. And unfortunately, we got a biome in our home area that's just a lot of dead-looking, ugly, yellow-brown grass. But I kind of figured something like that would happen. I'm pretty unlucky with biomes in that way. When I originally played this update, a lot of my favorite worlds got some ugly biome grass colors in the places where I was living. But there's nothing to be done about it, and it's really not too bad. At least it's not a swamp. So we're gonna hop around here. It's so nice to have sprinting back. Being able to get around the world nice and quick. Harvest some of this sugarcane here. Hey, no. So, since hunger works differently, I'm gonna craft down this wheat now that it will stack on itself. And now we have something to top off our hunger when it's a little bit higher. I can stack these pork chops that are stored in here. And you might notice that chests are using the door opening and closing sound. And originally, when they did use that, that will change soon. And here we have our next new mob. We have the Enderman. So Endermen were introduced in this update, along with their Ender Pearls. Let's see if I can kill this guy without dying. It's been a little while. Ooh, he teleported on me. There he is. And you can hear he just uses zombie sounds as a placeholder. Right now, he doesn't properly use Enderman sounds yet. And you might be thinking to yourself, Endermen were introduced in this update. That must mean that the end was introduced as well. That's not actually true. The end hasn't been introduced yet, even though strongholds have. And because of that, I'm not actually going to be generating terrain, because if I happen to generate my stronghold and get unlucky, then my stronghold won't have an end portal, and I will have a lot more trouble getting to the end. Now, I won't be generating terrain on this world, however, I do have some plans to show off the new features. So, there we go, another Enderman. Hopefully, this one will drop what he needs to drop. Nah, he didn't. Well, they can drop Ender Pearls now. However, they can't be crafted into Eyes of Ender yet. So, with that, I've shown everything I need to show at night. I'm going to wait until morning and show off some more stuff. Alright, I'm in the Nether here because I am on my way to Beta Land, but before I go there, I need to show something else off. Giant mushrooms are introduced into the game now, and so mushrooms are a much more easier to farm resource. So I'll just make one of each here just to show them off. They look the same nowadays, but I figure I should show it anyways. So from that one brown mushroom, we could see that we got 10 back. So it's a pretty good method of, it's a pretty fast method of farming. Let's break this one down. I always like the look of red mushrooms, giant red mushrooms, building a little tiny starter house with them, where you live up in the bell with a little ladder on the stem. Something about it. Anyways, I am going to go head over to Beta Land now, so I will see you all there. Judging by the grass color, I would say that Beta Land got turned into an extreme hills biome, which isn't too bad. It's a much better grass color than it is normal over by our base. So I'm over here because I need to search for passive mobs. A couple in particular. The first is a cow. Cows now drop raw beef. And the second is a chicken. Now I got this egg here, so with some luck I'll be able to get a chicken out of it. But that's okay. We can search for them. Mobs were made persistent in this update, which means that they don't despawn. However, because of that, they also spawn a lot less frequently. Now here we have our chicken here, and what our chicken is going to drop. Feathers as normal, or as before, but now they also drop raw chicken. So 2 new food sources added in this update. I'm glad that at least one of my home areas didn't get a bad biome. Although it would be kind of funny if it was actually a cold biome. I don't think it is. I don't think we'll have snow, but it would be kind of funny if this area I'd made to look like a beach resort froze over. I'm over in this cave over here that leads down to the skeleton spawner, because I need to discuss changes to lighting. So you might have noticed that lighting is now a little bit colored based off of its light source. So natural light has the bluish tinge as we see these days, and unnatural light from things like torches and glowstone and fire has the reddish tinge that we know and love, as opposed to just being one flat color that we had seen in previous versions. And I had to break some torches around here to show that, so just replacing them. Another thing to mention about lighting, if we go into options, video settings, the brightness slider was now added. I don't like to play it moody, but I also don't like to play it full brightness. I feel like 50% is a pretty good value for me. So, that is the changes to lighting in this version. So we're about to be doing something just a little bit different here. But before we do that, I just have to show that I made a little enclosure for my animals here. As I mentioned before, they are persistent, which means they won't despawn in this structure. Unfortunately, they can't be bred, so I won't be killing these guys yet. I'll just be breeding them later once I can finally do that. So with that, I think I will cut here, and we will move on to the next segment. We're here on the main menu. As you can see, there is a little new panorama. No more just dirt background. You have a little world floating around in the back here. And before I go into the main thing I want to show right now, I'm just going to talk about the multiplayer menu real quick. As you can see, the modern multiplayer menu is here. You can add servers as you would. Prior to this, there was simply just an IP bar, and if you wanted to remember different servers to join, you would have to remember those IPs somewhere else. So, we're going to go into single player here, and we're going to do something a little different. We're making a new world because creative was introduced in this version, and I know this is supposed to be a survival series, but there is some new world gen in this version that's not really complete, but I still kind of want to show off because it was added. So I think both creative being added in this version and me not wanting to generate those structures in my main world, this is actually the perfect time to show it off. So Minecraft Legacy Creative, I guess? This is probably the only episode where I'll also ever be going into creative mode. But without further ado, let's generate our new world. And this will allow me to fly around and show off some new biomes a little bit. So we have a swamp biome, it looks like here. And as you can see, it doesn't have the darkened swamp coloration. And immediately here we have a new cave form, we have ravines, and wow, talk about luck. We have an abandoned mine shaft down here. So ravines were introduced in this update, making caves a little bit more interesting. And along with that, abandoned mine shafts. So we can fly around in here. And I can show off that the creative menu looks a little bit different. As you can see, it's just no categories and one big thing here. And there's also a chest here, so we can take a look at what some loot would be. So, a little bread and coal, kind of a lame chest. These are where you can find melon seeds and pumpkin seeds as of this update. So let me just explore this a little bit more. See if there's anything more interesting to show. You can see there's a couple of Endermen down here. And a bit of a lighting error, funnily enough, with this torch not generating light like it should. So that's abandoned mine shafts. And as well, ravines. And as you can see, interestingly enough, mobs are still aggroed on us in creative mode, even though they can't hurt us. And wow, this is actually some pretty cool terrain gen right off the bat. This was like a triple ravine that linked into a mine shaft. No, it was a double ravine, that's right, that linked into a mine shaft. And then there's another double ravine down here, which leads into a lava ravine. So kind of some neat terrain generation. Alright, I will cut away here, and I will come back for the next thing I need to show. I am here at the surface. I'm just flying around here. I figured I would show off how terrain's a little bit different. Funny enough, these extreme hills generated to look kind of like some beta terrain, which wasn't a common feature. Usually they'd be a lot more boring. But that's actually some pretty cool world gen right there, especially for a 1.8 world. This is the system of terrain generation that would be used all the way up until the upcoming Caves and Cliffs update. So terrain would look pretty similar for a long time now. And instead of being random, it's all biome based, so similar, so the same biomes will always have relatively similar terrain. So as you can see here, we're in a spruce forest of some kind. But I think that's good discussion of terrain generation, so now I'll actually cut away until I have the next thing I want to show off found. So I'm here inside a stronghold, and I figure I'll just walk around a little bit, see what I can find to show off in here, if there's anything interesting. Like I said before, in the survival portion, end portals weren't introduced yet, so we won't find any of those, which is the main reason I didn't want to generate these structures in my world, because there's only 3 strongholds per world at this point, so if I happen to generate one, I'm going to have a hard time finding others in the future, which I'm going to need to do. So I kind of wanted to avoid that. We can see it's mostly just winding hallways right now, with, you know, standard mobs because it's a dark cave. And we can see, of course, the different kinds of stone brick on display. I only showed normal stone brick because that's all that's craftable right now, but we can see that we also have mossy and cracked stone brick. And I should note there is actually a bug that lets you obtain those two on your own right now. If you break some stone brick stairs, depending on the rotation, they'll drop a different kind of stone brick. It's a little fun fact there. So there's usually a chest up here, and we can see apples for the first time are obtainable in Minecraft, legit. At least without Notch joining a server that you're running, which pretty unlikely chance for that to happen. So we'll explore this stronghold for a bit more. If we can find a library, that would be ideal, because that's the other structure that I would like to see in this version. No luck so far, but see some other structures, I suppose. And another chest here so we can look at. Just another apple and some bread. And at this point, I don't think there's too much more to show here. But I'll walk around for just a little bit longer. Come back if I find anything interesting. Fancy that. It's a slime chunk. How lucky. If only I had found this in my normal world. Oh well. Ah, here we are. A library. And it can have maps, paper, lots of bookshelves, same stuff you see these days. So yeah, that's strongholds in this version. Like I said, no end portals. But there's still a little bit more to look at. So we will do that. I'll cut away here. And here we are. We have the last World Gen feature that I needed to show coming into view here. Well, actually, now we're just straight up in it. Villages were introduced in this update. However, they're a little bit empty. There's no villagers yet. Just these village houses. And they're a little bit more primitive than the modern villages that we see, with some slightly different terrain gen features. Some slightly different buildings. Some of you might be aware that blacksmiths have chests in them, but not in this version and not for a little while. But you can see basic buildings here. We have the small house, we have the blacksmith, the library, and we have the well and the large house. We do not have a church here, but that's all the other villager buildings. So with that, I believe that covers everything I need to show as far as New World Gen. And don't worry, we'll be generating new chunks in our Survivor world soon enough. This is really just a one-off thing, like I said earlier. But with that, I think it's a good time to wrap up the episode. So I will see you all next time.